Welcome to Indie Conversations. This is the video series sponsored by CSIF, where we're talking to local filmmakers and supporting the work that they are doing. It also kind of looks like we're in a hostage negotiation, but I promise that is only partially correct. Today, I get the immense pleasure of talking to Simon and Vinson Chan, who have a film called HECKIN WEENS that's going to be playing at this year's Calgary International Film Festival. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
What immediately comes to mind is why wieners?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, actually. It just comes down to the simplicity of the wiener. You know, like the wiener is so versatile, right? Like you have a hot dog. Everyone loves hot dogs. You could have it on its own as a naked wiener, or you could dress it up however you like. So it's just the versatility of the hot dog and the wiener, and you do so much with it. So I just have fun with it.
I've seen some of your other work. You of course worked with the Underground Film Festival this year as well. So I didn't think you could fit in as many hot dog / wiener puns as you have, but it does seem to be an endless bounty of creativity that you have with it.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it does take a lot of energy for me to try to think of more hot dog puns, but I do try a lot for what I do, and a lot of the times it's the puns that drive the work and the animations that I come up with. It's like, oh, I thought of this really clever little pun, I think, for something I could do with a hot dog, and then I'll just animate them. So yeah,
he has a secret list of all the hot dog puns he's ever come up with. So it just depends on the occasion. It's oh, this occasion's coming up, I have a pun for that.
Oh, that's good. A man after my own heart, because it's spreadsheets. Is there a way I can use a spreadsheet to organize my thoughts? I'm doing it. Simon, from your end, when did you become part of the creative process? Because you are both the editor of this piece as well as the composer.
I mean, everything Vincent does, he kind of just brings me on. Sure. And vice versa. We're frequent collaborators on pretty much all of our projects that we work on. With this one, this is kind of a compilation of all the work that Vincent's been doing for the past several years. So all of these shorts are on his Instagram posts, and so he decided to compile them together into this one kind of short film format. And so throughout the years, I've been he would come to me, he's oh, can you compose a little jingle for this one post on Valentine's or for whatever occasion? And so I've been kind of doing that throughout as he's making those posts. And so this was just putting them all together. And there were a couple new tracks that we had to kind of make specifically just to fill in, because certain posts didn't have music, or they had different music that we had to kind of get around with copyright and stuff like that. So I just had to replace it.
Is that your background, or did you just have to figure out how to do music for these projects?
I do have a music background. I was a piano teacher once upon a time. And so I have a musical background. I do compose and stuff like that too. I wear many hats. So it was one of those things that I'm oh, I can whip up a quick jingle. So
kind of want to know the writing process. I know that you have this document with a bunch of these puns and stuff that go on in it, but as far as what is happening in the actual animation, is that something that you are physically writing out?
Yeah, a lot of the time it's just a simple action that I can make the wiener do. It's oh, what can a wiener do, right? It's a little dude, and you can dance, you can do a little jiggle or something, and it really is just that. And I make all my animations loop, so that when you're looking at them on social media, on Instagram, it's always just looping, and that's kind of what drives my ideas of what can I make that's loopable, and it'll just keep going endlessly forever, just like the hot dog.
I always love it when there's those little audio cues that are callbacks to older stuff. I mean, the big one is the Wilhelm scream that gets put into so many different projects out there. I was a big fan of the goofy yell when you fell down and stuff like that. It's anytime you can make an excuse to throw this stuff in there, it's so much fun to me. So
Simon does a lot of the he does the music and the sound as well, right? He's kind of come up with a little motif for the wieners. If you really follow through all the little wiener posts I make and stuff, and all the little jingles that Simon does for me, he has worked in a little motif, a little theme.
Yeah, there's a theme song, it's literally there's six. It's a 6 notes. You're playing a scale, but it doesn't finish. And it was funny because that was from a SpongeBob episode where they were practicing for a parade, and then they're playing this scale, and it's a weird it didn't finish the scale. They went up to the 6th note and they just ended there, and they kept looping that. And so that's kind of my theme for the Weens is so all of the tracks I try to integrate it, and a lot of it because we're inspired by actual, when he did a Turbo Man post, I kind of made a cover of the Turbo Man theme, or something like that. But I still kind of squeeze in that little chord progression or the scale progression in the background, or just to make it weenify it, I guess.
I want that to be a new verb that people use, to weenify it. How much are you inspired by Don Hertzfeldt?
Don Hertzfeldt, yes. Very much inspired.
Okay.
And this film is actually, it's a homage to Don Hertzfeldt.
It's a dedication to Don Hertzfeldt.
Because his film is also playing at the festival this year, too.
Is. Yeah. And that's the thing. This film was actually created because his film was playing at Calgary International. So this is me chasing after Don Hertzfeldt, and I need to show him my wiener. And I just you
were now on a list somewhere, but that's fine.
When we found out that Don Hertzfeldt was screening his film at Calgary International Film Festival, it was like, oh shoot, I gotta do something, because because I've been such a fan of Don Hertzfeldt since I was in high school, and a lot of, like, especially, the wieners and stuff, that's very heavily inspired by his humor and his style and things like that. And a few people have picked up on that, and I'm always really impressed when people do. I don't make it a very blatant point that I'm inspired, but I very much am.
Cool.
So we were very excited when we found out that he was screening, and there was like two weeks before the deadline. I have all these wiener animations. Let's put it all together and submit it.
Just so we screen at the same time that Don.
So it was like a big fingers crossed, and then we
right at the finish line, getting it across there. Yeah.
Simon, get this done with me, and then we just came together, and 2 weeks we pounded through this and just got it through. So
all I heard is that I'm very smart from that answer. I just want to say, have you had a chance to watch any of this work that's within this 4-minute short with a crowd yet, or is this going to be kind of your first experience?
Not this particular short, but we have screened a compilation of my wieners at the Calgary Kids Comic Con.
Yeah, I think this was back in, was it like April or May?
It was around that time. So we were doing a little interview with Quick Draw Animation.
They had a panel for us, so they interviewed us about our other projects and stuff, and then they also previewed a little, like, we just compiled a bunch of little animation loops, and it was fun because there was a lot of kids there. You could see all the reactions and where the people are getting the laughs, and it's usually when they show the butt, it's that gets the laughs from the kids. And they're like, okay, it's
really
still
well
PG-13.
It is remarkable. I mean, I've had friends, and with even my own work that I've done, you make your thing, you finally get to show it to people, and then there are those moments where it's like, good, yes, they were meant to laugh at this. And then there's other moments like, oh, you didn't laugh where I thought you were going to laugh. For any film project that people work on, there's something that you will learn. There's something that you may not have known at the beginning that you have now understood by the end of it. So I'm going to ask both of you, within this project, what did you learn by doing this?
I need to think.
Sure, take a moment.
We
sat here for 20 minutes.
I mean, I'll answer for him. He'll answer for me. But basically, because this is like a compilation of years of work, I think it's like an evolution of kind of the animation styles and techniques and stuff. Like when Vincent started, he'd spend 12 hours on hand drawing every little frame or whatever. He would always come to me and was like, oh, I figured it out. I'm shaving like 2-ish hours or whatever because I'm doing it through 3D or whatever. And so, just watching that progression of like, okay, he can kind of up his quality of the animation while still maintaining, the aesthetic that he wants, right? Because he wants that 2D traditional look of pen and paper. To audiences, I guess if you watch this whole thing, you might not be able to see like, oh, what was 3D, what was, because they all kind of look pretty consistent. But I think from a behind the scenes point of view, it's like, oh, he actually, one of these animations took him like 20 plus hours to actually do, because he started that. It still takes a long time, like 6 to 8 or something, but he's still substantially like kind of shaved down that time. But
what's your answer for Simon?
Also what we learn is it's something we don't really learn, is making a film at the last minute and crunch time. Like, you know, you got to give ourselves more time and stuff like that. But you know, having a deadline it's kind of crucial to getting things done and being productive. So
yeah. With animation, you do have to be incredibly intentional with a lot of what you're doing. In a live action feature film or even short, it's like, well, I can do like 4 or 5 takes of this, pick whichever best one I want. I don't necessarily do that with animation. It's like, I'm not going to animate this 7 times and then pick the best one. I have to be like, no, this is exactly what I want to do. I don't know if you feel the same way. It's like you have to spend a lot of time thinking about it before you actually start animating it.
no, definitely for animation. Yeah, you got the right idea. It is very much everything's deliberate, and it's like you want to do it as, you know, one time and that's it, and that's what it is, right? You don't have a lot of just time to keep redoing stuff. You just do what you got to do. That's why I kind of like to rough things out in 3D, because it does allow me to have more of that versatility to play around with stuff before I do a final render kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Our final question here is, it doesn't have to be a recent film, but just the last great movie that you watched.
Last Stop in Yuma County. That was just a solid, like, everything about that.
Definitely goes in a very different direction. I feel like you kept like subverting, like, oh, okay, this is the type of movie right now.
Good. But it's just so well put together, and it's almost like after the film wraps, it's like, oh, you know, it wasn't out of nowhere, right? Everything was still built up, but you just didn't really expect it until you got to the end, and you're like, oh wait, it did make sense. Like all this stuff adds up. I don't know. It was one of those things I think we discussed after we watched it. It was like, oh, that was like the most impressive thing we've seen in a while.
Yeah, that's cool.
So.
Kyle, I did snoop your Instagram. I know your favorite movie is Inside Out.
It is, yeah.
And I was actually very impressed by Inside Out too. I don't know how you felt about it. I'm assuming you saw it.
I have seen it. My nephew made it very clear that we had to go and see it together. So there is some very cool animation in there. I really love the character Ennui. I think it's very funny.
Yeah.
To put that concept into a children's film. So the first Inside Out is still like very near and dear to my heart.
Fair. And yeah, I loved the first Inside Out. It was mind blowing when I watched it. I was like, this is amazing. It was one of my favorite Pixar movies as well. And but then I watched the second one. I was like really nervous about it. And I was like, you know, how are they going to live up to the first one? But I don't know. At least to me, I was like, they did a really good job, and I was impressed. So
who knew that, again, a Pixar film that is marketed towards kids is going to have the best depiction of what an anxiety attack looks like?
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your days.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you so much
for having us.